Aloha, I'm Jake Shimabukuro, and you're watching Eclectic Arts Media with my good friend Mark.
Susanna, and she's like, yes. I'm like, great, here you go.
As always, Mark, it's always an honor to hang out with you and spend this evening with you. And visit with you for dang sure. I really appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
And I can't find the light. I've only worked here for like 5 years and I can't find the
I could be working now. I could be doing something. So it's good to take some time away, but I can't get away for too long, quite honestly.
Yeah, I think when it feels like the journey is complete, you know.
It's like Darby, Montana, population 600. Man, we got to come up with a plan.
I guess this is gonna be my new life.
Really good question. By the way, you are such a good interviewer. All of your questions are solid questions.
That's exactly it. Yes! I feel like we've all had this experience.
Yeah. Other than that, it's all good. We're just going to keep trying to make
I start with a phrase or a word. I journal a lot and I love writing poetry. And so like I'll just have like a little like line stuck in my head that I just keep repeating to myself. Just like words, phrases, things like that. And I build off of that and I'm kind of like telling a story and then I try to make it rhyme. And I get to like I like doing the words first. And sometimes it's storytelling, sometimes it's like setting a scene of some sort, sometimes it's just like I just ramble. I just see what happens. And then I try to just like improv a melody until I find something that I can like latch onto and keep moving with.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts Media, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Monday, the 20th of March, 2023, first day of spring. And I want to thank the Filmmaker Symposium that I had 2 Fridays ago. It was such a wonderful, I was really more of a fly on the wall listening to the lovely ladies who had much to talk about related to film, which was Kate Black-Spence and Susanna Lova and Casey Hartnett. So thank you so much to the ladies for joining me 2 Fridays ago. And if this is your first time on my YouTube channel, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell. If you're on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there, that would be great. And if you have anything that you'd like to ask my guests for this live stream or any ones that I have coming up, all you have to do is either subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on Twitch. And then you can put your question or comment into the chat. And please be aware that only I see the questions and comments that come through. My guests do not. So I will pepper those into the conversation, or sometimes I'll literally actually stick it onto the screen so my guests can see it. But I obviously welcome any kind of questions or comments for guests, because that's always fun when it's more interactive. And we'll kind of go from there. And hey, Ove, good to see you over in Scandinavia. So it's very late/early morning for you. Thanks for joining me again. And yeah, so it's always nice when I get a chance to, and I've been saying this through all of my live streams for the last few years, when guests come back. And sometimes it's maybe been only a few months, sometimes it's been a few years. And but it's always interesting to kind of see where things are at. And even looking at that clip that I showed in my video, I'm like, those are like paintings behind me and stuff, which I haven't done in probably about 2 years. So it's been, oh my gosh, it's interesting to see that little time back, Wayback Machine working its magic. But let's get to tonight's guest. My guest today first joined me just over 2 years ago. She has been very busy creating and performing music. Her new EP, Navigating Galaxies, drops on March 21st. Please welcome back to the Eclectic Arts Media Virtual Studio, Miss Ashlynn Malia.
Hello, it's good to be back.
Yeah, hi Ashlynn, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm good. It's been a pretty relaxing day.
Well, that's good because I know you've been busy. So let's kind of start with the current things. We'll get to your EP in a real quick second, but I know you're at South by Southwest, the big music industry, entertainment going on thing.
Yes.
What was that like for you? What was that experience like? And how did your show or shows go?
Yeah, so that was my first time there. I've never been to South by before. I've only just like seen it through like other people I know, like their social media, all that kind of stuff. So I really didn't necessarily know what to expect. But when I got there, there was just music everywhere. So it was like heaven for me. But it was definitely like I was thinking like towards like the end of the week, I'm like, whoa, this is getting a little bit overwhelming. Like there's just so many shows, so many things to go see that you're just like, I can't physically be everywhere at once. But all in all, very inspiring week. It's really like one of my like
favorite things in the world to watch other people perform. And there were definitely some standout shows that I saw that I'm just like, gonna grab some inspiration there, gonna get energized from this show, like things like that. And so I was glad that I could have seen a couple of concerts before I did my own show. And I did a small like stripped down set, just me and a guitar, for about like 40 minutes, singing some new songs, some old songs, some covers, and it was a really good time. The energy in that place was really good.
Okay, well that sounds great. I've never had a chance to be down there yet. And as you said, when you got a chance to see other people's shows before you did your own set, were these artists that you knew about, or there's brand new ones, or a mix of both?
A mix of both. So there were a couple of new ones that I'd never seen before, because I was there with my manager who like knew of some shows that she wanted to go to and that like her friends wanted to go to. And so I was just kind of going along to some of those. And then I had my own that I'm like, we must see this. For example, Remy Wolf, who's one of my favorite people of all time to watch live. Her energy on stage is unmatched, in my opinion.
Well, that's awesome. I'll have to look into her. I'm writing this down right now.
Yes, it's an experience. You must.
Okay. And so when you were doing your set, do you feel I'm just kind of imagining in my own head, when you're doing your own set and you have so much music going around in that whole area, that whole city, was it easier to do a set, or was it harder to do a set because there's some music going on? How did that kind of work?
I try my best not to think of myself as, I guess, like in competition with any other like performances that were happening at the time. That's been a big theme for me lately, just to like kind of be in my own lane and appreciate that lane and build off of it. And I can appreciate other people's lanes and like get very inspired by them, but I'm like really working right now to not compare. And a big part of that was just like being as present as possible on the stage that I was on, and being as authentic as possible with what I was singing. So yeah.
Okay, well, and that makes sense, because I know I talked to one of my band members before back in the day about we have to go out there and do what we do, and really show the people that they spent their time to come see us, and that we're having fun, and we're trying to connect with them. And it doesn't matter if there's 6 other things going on right down the same street. And it's like, well, these are the faces that are there, so hey, entertain them.
Absolutely. And like, I'm grateful for every single person that showed up, and I felt like we had a really good exchange. I think that's my favorite part of shows in general, is just to feel like I'm like connecting with somebody. If it's one person in the audience, there's still connection, and I'm happy.
That's awesome. I think it's no different. I've been covering, there's 2 film festivals going on right now, one locally and one that's virtual for me. And getting a chance to actually be there in person and seeing some of the people from an area that I'm not familiar with, was really fascinating to take in their whole culture and the language. And they had some music that was from their people. And people started asking me questions, because maybe I was the only Asian person there. I don't know, but they're kind of like, I had my badge hanging off my neck, so they kind of like, well, are you with this newspaper or this magazine? When I explain what I'm with, and they're like, oh, and they wanted to hear about all the other stuff, but just that kind of communal vibe was definitely happening.
Yeah.
And the movie hadn't even started yet. It was like, that's
great.
It is. So and I knew this when I was doing things virtually, but definitely being there in person for real, it just kind of re-emphasized like, hey, sing something, if it's music, if it's a film, if it's a play, in front of you is so different. And, that whole experience, again, that exchange of energy with people happens.
Yes. And that's wild, because the last time I talked to you, there was really no live stuff going on. It was 2021. And like, even if there was like a few live things coming back, I wasn't doing any live stuff because I had barely even dropped any songs of my own yet. So it's wild to like see that journey from like March 2021 to now, because like it was that year that performances started happening, and I like really understood the value of performing my own songs in a room with real people, and how much more personal and fulfilling that felt versus like releasing things virtually and then not being able to actually connect with anybody face to face.
Yeah, it's like we were talking pre-show. It's so strange. And for me, being back in a photo pit and seeing the photographers that I know, and also some of the fans, and talking to them before bands take the stage, and it's just like
this, and so now it's interesting to having, for at least for me, I have both worlds, and you have this now too, where we have a virtual tool, but then we have the in-person thing, which can't be replaced.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and so this kind of good segue to the new EP is really unique and unusual, which is not a surprise coming from you. And that you started this, correct me if I'm wrong, with voice memos. And so where did this just kind of accidentally happen, or something you planned on doing that into your phone, or how did this kind of come to be?
So it was an idea that had been in my head for a few months. Late last year, I was traveling a little bit and doing some small shows. And I remember being in Nashville for a show. And when I travel, I love traveling alone. And I really like just like taking long walks by myself, just like exploring. So that's one of the things I was doing. So I got into the city, had my headphones in, and was just walking around Nashville. And I was listening to some music, and that's something I like to do sometimes, is write songs while I'm walking. I'm not great at sitting still and writing, so I like to either be like driving or moving in some way, and ideas flow a little bit better for some reason. So I was kind of songwriting as I walked and using like a voice memo of like a draft of a song that I had sort of started as a reference point. And I just like kind of stopped like making my brain work for a second and just like listened to the voice memo to see what I had already. And I'm like, this is actually like very like calming to listen to. Like I quite like the sound of this voice memo. And it occurred to me that like I have like artists that I absolutely love. And I love them especially for the lyrics they write and the melodies and all that stuff, along with the production, which is usually incredible as well. But like, I am very much a words girl. I don't know, I just connect with them the most. And I always start my songwriting with lyrics. So I was thinking about how cool it would be for like a favorite artist of mine to release like a little like project of their voice memos, like what their songs sound like when their like ideas are just starting. And at the same time was thinking that I quite liked the sound of like my songs when they're just ideas, just like they're like, you know, simplest, humble beginnings. So from there I had that idea in my head, and I didn't really start working on it until I broke my foot in December and just like couldn't do anything. But recording these voice memos didn't even require me to go into a studio sometimes. Like, it helped me get out of the house a little bit because I wanted to record in some other places, but like I kept the voice memos thing going, and it was something that I could kind of do from like the privacy of my own home when I was like stuck on a couch, not able to do much.
Okay, well, I love the intention of the different aspects of how this came to be, because it's not like one thing, like you just said. You're always, you know, the artists that you love, you kind of would love to see that little, you know, seed of how their songs start and how it kind of progresses. And then in your case, unfortunately, you had something else that put on top of that when you broke your foot. So then what else can I do? Okay, I can keep exploring this idea then that I have. Yeah. And then it started. Okay, so that kind of reminds me of sometimes when artists decide that they want to like peel back the layers and pull back the curtain kind of a thing. Yes. And just kind of really show like, here's all the steps, and here's this kind of in its raw form. And in some cases, actually putting it out that way too, because they don't want to get it overproduced and over whatever. It's like, this is kind of what I want you to see, like almost like farm to table. If there's a song version of that.
I like that analogy a lot, but yeah, pretty much. And the songs that I'm releasing, like I'm definitely not opposed to having them fully produced someday, because I really like them. But I just like, I figured like I have some other projects that I'm very excited about this year. They're definitely going to be a little bit more produced, planned out. But this is just kind of like a little like, just a little something for like the people who appreciate my lyrics and want to know a little bit more about my process. And yeah.
That's cool. I mean, for me being a musician, I love that kind of thing, because it is interesting to see the different snapshots of an artist of how they do things, and sometimes you don't get to see that.
Yeah. No.
So no, I can appreciate that for sure. And I'm actually, as we're talking, I'm looking at the picture in the background. You can see that your foot's in a cast in those pictures.
I mean, I wasn't about to take it off for the photo shoot. I had to heal it. I'm trying to get back to dancing, walking. that just started, but we'll get to dancing soon.
Okay, yeah, just thinking about that must have been even I mean, for anybody that's going to be a bad situation when you're laid up. But in your case, being a dancer, that must have been like, oh my God, now I can't even.
Oh, I'm dying. I'm dying to get back to it. And like my roommate's also a dancer, so like I get to see him like dancing. That's his job all the time. And I was just like, I want to join you. I want to be a part of that as well. But not yet. But it's fine because it allowed me to very much focus on this project and some other projects that I have coming up this year. So it all worked out. There were plenty of blessings in disguise, plenty of silver linings. I did try my best to see those and take them for what they were.
Okay, all right. As you were kind of talking earlier about, when it was 2021 when we first talked, I was looking through some of your catalog now. I mean, you had a lot of songs have come out.
Yeah.
I look at this and I was looking at like like your followers and your subscribers and everything else. I'm like, it's like through the roof in some areas that I'm like, I've been kind of asleep, I think, to be honest, about what's been going on. I'm like, oh shit. So that's why I was like trying to make sure I'm listening to some things and catching up with stuff. And I'm like, and I love that. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing that you haven't been stagnant or something else happened where you're like, well, I can't get to music. It's got to take a back burner. It's like, no, she's been working through all this stuff.
Oh yeah. This has been my life for the past few years. Pretty much since the pandemic started, I made the shift into like full-blown music full time. Yeah.
And I think I saw you had like a clip from South by Southwest when you were playing like maybe a Gibson Les Paul or something that was some sort. It looked like a Les Paul, I think.
It wasn't a Gibson though. It was an Epiphone, but yeah, It was a Les Paul.
Okay. Refresh my memory. When you're putting the music to your songs, what instrument do you normally use? Was it guitar?
It's either guitar or piano.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because for some reason I kept picturing you at a piano or a keyboard or something more so than a guitar. So when I saw you with a guitar, I was like, oh, now she's branching out into guitar work now too, which is cool.
Yeah. There's like, I'd say it's a pretty even split between piano and guitar. Even on this EP, I'd say it's more piano heavy. And then like there's a song that I did initially write on guitar, but we changed it to ukulele because we liked the feel of it. That's probably one of my favorites on the whole EP, so I'm excited about it. But yeah, I'd say for all the songs that are already out as well, it's an even split between starting it on a guitar and starting it on piano.
Okay, and if we kind of stay on that thread of your songwriting process and like you have with these voice memos, so if we go back, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, what's been inspiring you for your lyrics?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'd say watching my relationships mature is a huge point of inspiration for me. I definitely feel like a very different person than I was last time we talked, just in the things that I've experienced, and the things that matter to me now that didn't before, and the things that don't matter to me anymore that very much did a couple years back. I'd say though, like if I were to like go back like 6 months, I'd say like the relationships in my life, and that's really not just like romantic relationships. It's like my friendships, my relationship with my family, my relationship with my job, my relationship with my past also, and like where I come from. I traveled a ton last year, which I really liked, because I just got to see so much more of the world than I thought I would. And a big theme for like all of 2022 was surrender. I ended up in a lot of crazy situations, like crazy good situations that I really could not have imagined for myself. And so I think the stories that unraveled because I kind of took a step back and released a bit of control in terms of how my life goes was a huge inspiration for what I'm writing now.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, because I'm still big into people's energy when I do my interviews and when I meet people in person and that type of thing. And your energy feels like there's definitely new layers to it than when we talked. And it does feel like there's a maturation process has happened.
Yes, I believe so. I think that there have been a couple of also very like distinct relationships in my life that have caused me to mature and caused me to like understand what true vulnerability is. And I think last time we had an interview, I was still really scared of vulnerability. And my songs talked about how scared I was of vulnerability. And I feel like I'm a bit on the other side of that, or at least a little bit more in the thick of things in terms of how vulnerable I'm able to get with people. And hopefully that reflects in the EP that I'm putting out now. I feel like it goes a bit deeper than my last EP simply because I'm a couple years older and have seen a little more.
Well, yeah, I think if you're personally growing and maturing in different areas of your life, you can't help but have that affect your music. Any kind of art that comes out of you.
Yeah.
And I mean that's one of the best things about being an artist is that I don't think artists really ever stagnate because they're either getting inspired or things are changing in their personal lives. That's now moving over to their professional lives and vice versa. And like you mentioned, last year that you traveled a lot, and you also mentioned that you don't do really well like writing by sitting still. I can kind of almost picture you, maybe not purposely, but like if you were I don't know, going to like 4 or 5 different cities, let's say, in the world, and then you actually wrote a song in each city.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I have thought about that so many times. Like I have so badly wanted to make like almost like a travel album, and each song was just like the title was like the name of the city and country I was in at the time, because I really want to see as much of the world as I possibly can during my lifetime. I would like to see all 7 continents, like all sorts of things like that. Like it's also I think a big reason why I want to be an artist, because like I know that being an artist means touring and traveling and like performing in lots of different places. But yes, I cannot sit still. Now I can because I was forced to because of this injury. I'm not great at it, and I'm not good at accepting that I have to, but at least I can now because I have no choice.
Okay, well, eventually, when you're able to, get back to full movement and doing what you want, and then maybe that does take you to different countries, and it might be something that organically happens. Like you said, you like to walk around when you're in different cities, and you're already putting those ideas down already. I mean, this EP is proof of that. So it's kind of like, it seems like that's almost like your future's destined to have some sort of, thing with a travel EP or a travel album or something related to it, or or somebody, maybe your manager or somebody, documenting you while you're there, to put like a vlog together of this whole piece to give you even more, vulnerability of this whole process.
Yeah, it would be so sick. Like if there was ever like a year in my life when like a little like documentary film crew like followed me around, and we just all, like a big group of us, just traveled around the world. We like had like different destinations, and like I wrote a song in each place, and like was like walking around, like wrote piece of it like at a coffee shop, piece of it at like a museum. I don't know. That would be sick. So cool. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, it seems like something that could happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And there's something else I was going to kind of switching gears, that when I think of you, I always think about that when you're telling me about 2 years ago when you're the carrot sound that was in Desperate.
Yes.
Is there anything like that that's happened since, with some other kind of unusual sound effect or something that you put into a recorded song?
That's a great question. I'm just trying to think about the songs I've released since then. Yes. There was a song that I released a little bit after my first interview with you called Emergency. And in there, okay, sorry. My storytelling's all over the place. There's an app called 1 Second Every Day. And basically, like, you put a 1 second video clip in to this app, every single day of the year. And at the end of the year, it stitches it together in one like big long video of like showing like 1 second of every day of that year. And I personally love doing that. I'm a big fan of documenting things like in general, keep a lot of journals, write a lot of songs, take a lot of pictures and videos. So of course, I'm obsessed with that app. Been doing it for years. And I was like in the studio one day telling my producers about it, and I showed them one of the videos, made them sit through like all 6 minutes, and they like asked me to send it to them. And then they took little like the 1 second like sound clips from those videos, and they're like, we can work with this. We can like turn some of these into samples. So a couple of those samples made it into my song Emergency, if you listen carefully to like the background noise.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love unorthodox creativity.
Me too. I enjoy it very much.
Oh, wait. Writing down that song title.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, when you were talking about travel and songwriting, I wanted to tell you earlier that I did write one of my songs in Seattle, because I know that's where you're from. And like, I took a trip in 2021. I took a trip to Seattle, just a solo trip, and ended up writing my song Coordinates. And it's one of my favorite songs I've ever written. So I must go back to Seattle ASAP, because something's in the air there and I would like more of it.
Well, that's great. Yeah, now that you mentioned that, I think I remember seeing something like on your social media when you were up here.
Yes.
I mean, granted, that was a couple of years ago, but do you remember like where you were walking to get your inspiration for that particular song in Seattle, or where area you happened to be in, by water or trees or a restaurant? Or
I was like in like a city-ish area when I started it. So I literally, the song is pretty literal, and it like is the progression like of a day. And so like I woke up and wrote the first lyric, which is woke up wanting you beside me, and like wrote that first verse. And then I'm like, what should I do with my day? And I'm like, I'm going to go get some coffee. So I wrote the lyric, maybe I'll grab a cup of coffee and listen to our favorite song. And I went to this coffee shop, wrote a bunch of it, walked around. I think I walked to the the very, very like famous like is it a farmer's market in Seattle?
Oh, Pike Place.
Pike Place.
Yep.
I don't know why I forgot the name. I went to Pike Place, walked around there for a while, walked myself over to the like water, all that kind of stuff, and got back to the apartment I was staying at, and just kept writing. And like at the time, I just released a song, and I was like frustrated with how the release was going, and so I was like, the rest of my day went to shit. Wrote a song, but no one's listening to it. Like, it's just like, it was very literal. It was just literally a stream of consciousness thing. I wrote like 4 verses and only 2 made it in, because when I brought it to my producers, they're like, it's great. Let's just like file it down a little bit, because it's a very long song and you don't have to tell everybody every single thing that happened in your day. Let's keep the story cohesive. And I said, great idea. So we like shaved off a couple lyrics here and there, merged things, and ended up with the like 3-minute something song that we have now.
Okay, that's cool. That's you've already been doing this kind of thing. Like so it wouldn't be necessarily new to you if you went to some new city or country.
No,
that's almost kind of like how you're wired.
Yeah, I think it's where a lot of my inspiration comes from. It's just like changing locations, being in new places. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, just like having intense wanderlust, not being able to sit still. I should probably be a little better at like stillness, but maybe that'll just come with time.
Yeah, and trust me, I've interviewed a ton of guests over the years, and you're not alone. There's some that's what they live for it. They live for they want to find out other things. They want to experience new experiences.
Yeah.
It drives them nuts to be in one place for too long.
Yeah, very much.
Yep.
Very much so.
Yeah, and it might actually be an artist thing too.
Maybe.
that they're looking for inspiration and they want to see that I know what's out there, so let me experience some of it. I can't do that if I'm sitting here in Seattle and I want to go to the Ukraine, or I want to go to Thailand, or I want to go wherever and see what it's like. And so I see Ove's asking, what was your favorite place to visit when you were in Seattle?
Ooh. This might be strange, but my favorite place to visit was actually like, I went to a pho restaurant a couple different times on that trip. I forgot what it was called, to be honest. It was like walking distance from my place. And pho restaurants are always like a comforting space for me. Like anytime I travel, I find one because it's like, it's my little safe space where I can just like sit there for a couple hours, eat some soup, and like feel very at peace. So I think the pho restaurant that I found while I was there was like a little safe haven for me. I also got a tattoo while I was there. So the tattoo parlor was another place that I enjoyed.
Okay.
Actually, oh no, it just came back to me. No, scratch both of those. There was a bookstore. I forgot what the bookstore was called, but there was a bookstore, and I went in there and there were cats everywhere. And they were just like roaming around the bookstore. I think it was like used books, which made it even better. And I wandered around there for so long. It was so quiet in there. And like just cats would just like be like walking around, weaving themselves through like people's legs and just like climbing on shelves and stuff. And I was just like, this is cute as fuck. I like it.
Okay, now I'm trying to figure out, do I know what bookstore that is? I haven't been in bookstores in a while, so I don't know like which bookstore's down there. Because I know Elliott Bay wouldn't have cats in it. That's too big of a store.
And I don't remember that name. I bet if I looked through my camera roll, I'd find it. I definitely like took pictures of it.
Okay, and I'm down in that area a lot for cover. I was just down there this past week to cover shows and stuff, so I'll have to kind of see what are some bookstores in the area, and I'll see if there's something that has cats in it.
Yeah.
That's the one Ashlynn was talking about. Okay.
Yes. I'm pretty sure it was a used bookstore, so like if that is any help in finding the one. But no, it was good energy in there. Highly recommend.
Okay, cool. I know something else that I saw that you were doing. I think you were doing this live on social media where you're using tarot cards, like tarot card writing or tarot card something. What is that? Can you explain that to me?
Of course. I started a series that I had been thinking about for quite some time and didn't actually have like the patience to sit down and do until I broke my foot. Sorry, there's a siren. I'm just gonna wait for that to not be there. Cool, we're back. Tarot songwriting. So basically, I write a song in real time based off of a tarot card that I pull. So I'll just be like shuffling a tarot deck, and each card has its own meaning, its own story, its own characters, its own energy. And the cool thing about tarot is that like you can get the same card twice and it means completely different things. So I wasn't necessarily even going off of like the book meaning of the card, but more my interpretation of the card on that given day. Because what I wanted it to be was like a tool to connect with other people. So if I was like shuffling with the intention of like, what do people need to hear today? What do I need to like write about today? The card that came out, I would use more my intuition of like, what am I seeing in this specific imagery? What am I feeling from like this archetype, from this theme? How is this relating to my own life right now? Or what story pops into my head? Maybe it's somebody else's story that I'm just going to tell right now, like channeling it. I don't know. But I definitely like made my explanations based off of my intuition. For the most part, like I obviously like did a little bit more research on days when I needed like help interpreting it. But the lyrics would just kind of come to me when I had like an image or a theme in my mind. For example, like I pulled a card called the Fool card on like the second episode I did. And that card usually stands for like new beginnings. There's like usually a very like naive but optimistic and positive energy about that card. And at the time, I was trying to see how I could relate to that energy. And I personally was kind of going through it and like in desperate need of a new beginning. And like almost really afraid to make the changes that I needed to make in order to have this new beginning, because it meant loss. So I wrote a song about like almost like what it might feel like to be on the other side of the scary changes I needed to make in order to feel better, and kind of like manifesting that relief before it was there. And that was the song that I ended up writing.
That's fascinating. I don't think I've ever heard anyone do anything even close to what you just described.
Good. This is good news.
Yeah. It tells me that, through this conversation we've had for the last half hour, that, and I knew this from when I first talked with you, that your brain must have so many different ideas in it in different stages of development, is my guess. Yeah, because some people don't have that. Even if they're artists, they have like one, or someone else kind of has to collaborate with them. But other people, they're kind of that wellspring, and then other people work with them later. But they're the ones that all the stuff comes from them first.
Yeah.
You seem like that person.
I feel like that person. And it actually causes some trouble, because I have not, like, I love my own little process so much, and starting things alone, that co-writing is sometimes a little bit difficult for me, because I don't know how to be as outlandish and vulnerable with people that I'm like just meeting for the first time, or like don't like know super well. Like I immediately want the other person in the room to like what I'm doing while I'm doing it. And like when I'm on my own wave, I can like what I'm doing and then reject it later, and I don't feel embarrassed. I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel like I failed as an artist. Like I'm just like, we're in flow. We're riding a wave. We're just moving. Like anything goes. And I've struggled to get into that like anything goes kind of place where my best ideas come from with other people in the room, and it's something that I've been working on and really want to get better at. Hence the vulnerability that's slowly coming into play.
Okay, that I think anyone who considers themselves artistic would be able to relate with that. It'd be like if I can't imagine like if I had to write like a chapter with somebody else of a book. It'd be like, well, no, here's what I did, and then you look at it and then add what you want to it or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have other people looking at it. Like I have my trusted artist that I'm like, hey, I just wrote this. Like, how does it make you feel? What would you add to it, take out of it? And then I take their advice with a grain of salt as well. Cause like, I still feel like, okay, like, does this feel honest and truthful to me? Does this still feel authentic? Does this still feel like the story I wanted to tell? But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking of the live stream that I last did 2 Fridays ago had 3 lovely female filmmakers, actors, producers, writers, all that in there. And something that came up during that live stream, which I'm going to ask you, which might apply to music. They were talking about how, as when they've done short films or did their own films, that they felt that women look at the flow of their filmmaking differently than male directors do. That they'll just kind of let it kind of find that rhythm, versus men might be like, it needs to be on this beat, this thing needs to happen, it needs to be a little bit more explicit, a little bit more of that. And then women are like, no, this is why I don't want that. I want to pull back. I want to let the people kind of let the movie come to them. And I'm kind of wondering if that's something similar for you as a musician, working with either male producers versus a female producer, if you have, or songwriters or co-writers, or just other people in your circle between, in terms of gender. Have you noticed anything like that?
Honestly, that's a great question. And I will say that the 2 people that I work most closely with and have made the most music with are male. And I guess I've never stepped back and compared our processes as far as our genders go, just because we're all individually very different people. But I'm like, I bet that there would be like some kind of difference there in music making. Honestly, gender itself fascinates me, and I wonder how much of like those like impulses are like nature versus nurture, and like what I as like a woman have been like raised to feel, think, approach things versus how men are raised to approach their work. I know that you've said it. I really want to pay attention to it, but I can't say I have like a solid answer for you right now. I have been like very into female perspective versus male perspective though recently, and also into like where gender stops mattering when it comes to people, because there are so many like non-binary people who I love like their art, and I love that it's almost like it is based in gender as they've come to see it, and like different genders they may have identified as in their life, but like there's that like underlying thing, like I don't want to be identified as a certain gender for a reason. There's something in me that's beyond gender, and I'd rather that be like the showcased thing other than like my perspective as a woman, my perspective as a man. So it's something that's turning in my mind a lot, but I don't actually have answers.
Okay, no, I kind of feel the same way. When the ladies were talking, I was being a fly on the wall, letting them talk, and it actually made me think about, you know, how either I look at things, or like you just said, you know, maybe how I was raised as a male, and especially an Asian American male, and also depending on what art form you're working in. And I was just watching a film last night that I need to review that was directed by a female filmmaker up in Canada, but it was also about from a Native American perspective. And those two different things I need to kind of wrap my head around of like, well, how come this stuff isn't really working for me? Is it because of that? Is this because of the strictly from the filmmaking itself, the editing, whatever? There's so many kind of variables to kind of put through your brain. It's like at some point I'm like, maybe it's just too much. Or maybe I'm overthinking it, and I just need to just kind of take it for what it is.
Yeah.
And like you were talking about, there's going to be times when it's not necessarily about gender, depending on what we're talking about and what the issue is. Especially if you're non-binary, that it's beyond that. So there's there's so many things going on, but it's really good for me from my end of what I do, especially as someone who reviews a lot of things. That just because something doesn't resonate with me, I don't sit there and slam something, because I'm trying to figure, well, why does it resonate with other people?
Yeah,
that's what's fascinating to me.
I wish that was the perspective that more men had about female art, because I see a theme sometimes that like art made by women or feminine people gets dismissed by men and masculine people just simply because they may not have experienced it or understood it, like in the way that a woman has. Like, I don't know, there have been times where I talk about like media that has just really spoken to me, gotten me through something, affected me so deeply, and like so many men are like, it was so mediocre, I don't understand why you like it so much. I don't get it. I'm like, yeah, of course you don't get it, you didn't write it, like a woman did. This is the whole thing, is that finally I'm seeing media that I'm like, I get it, because this person is me, somebody gets me now, and it's nice. And I wish that there would be a little more open-mindedness there, being like, okay, just because it's not my experience doesn't mean that it's not real. And there have been so many mind-boggling conversations that I've had with men that just invalidate female experiences because they themselves haven't experienced it. And, you know, when I have those conversations, I like to think like on my side, like, are there any things that I invalidate in a man's experience that maybe I'm doing because I can't relate to it? And I'm like, how can we relate to each other better? So, yeah.
Yeah, what you just said is what those three ladies talked about, and particularly once we were off air, because they talked about validation. They said, Mark, I didn't expect to come here and be so validated by other powerful women. And it's like, no, this has been really good for me too, to be able to make sure that I'm looking at other perspectives as much as I possibly can. And you're right, I think, and I know people in my own circle, if I'm talking about a film that I really loved and it has maybe it was directed by a female or has female-centric characters and themes, that they're like, Mark, what the fuck? Why did you tell me to watch that? I said, well, did you actually take it in, or what was it about that you didn't like? Can you articulate that to me? If you can't, then I already know you're a lost cause.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I started putting stuff in my head. It's like, well, wait a minute. So where does that put me? Where am I at that? So I'm still on my journey trying to figure things out, apparently, which is great. Yeah, which is great. I mean, I think that's part of the, you know, as long as the door's open, then you can start to make those changes. And, you know, especially, because my perspective's definitely changed over the last probably five plus years at least. and it's changed for the better.
Cool.
But it's also been having a chance to talk to people like yourself and other people around the world. It's like, I never thought about that kind of thing. It's like, it's great because people ask me, why do you do these interviews? Mark, how come you're not in, why aren't you in the photo pit more? Why all this in-person stuff? I'm like, I get something from these just as much as I do from that. And sometimes it's actually more because I love learning from people. I'm curious about people, and if I learn something new, any day, then that's a good day to me.
Yeah.
So
definitely agree with you there. 100%. I think it's one of my favorite things to do, to like know somebody as deeply as I possibly can know them. And like, I love having relationships with people who are completely different than I am, because I feel like a whole new layer gets added to my understanding of the world when I can like break down those walls and like understand them better.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It feels like it's something that I just added to myself. And that's always a good thing. So it's like, I just feel like I'm becoming this big layer and layer of.
And that's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't want it the other way around. It's got to be that. And even this happened even like during the pandemic, of talking to people that had very distinctive contrasting viewpoints from me. But I'm trying to figure out can we have a respectful conversation about it, so I can understand why are you coming from that angle, and they want to know why am I coming from my angle too.
Yeah.
And it forces me to have to really sit there and think about it. Why do I believe what I do, and can I articulate that to someone, or is it just because? Like, well, that doesn't help.
Yes. Honestly, that's one of the biggest reasons I also got into tarot, because like I would read other people's tarot cards, and like the way that I read, I try my best to keep things very present, because I do believe that people have free will and like can like see where their energy's at right now, but doesn't necessarily like, I don't fully believe that the future is completely predetermined. I think that we have some control over that. But my favorite thing to do when I'm reading other people's tarot cards is to like kind of like describe a situation they're in, and then get as deep as possible to like the root of it. And like, it gives me such a good understanding of like who they are and where they come from and where their actions come from. So like, if I'm on a surface level being like, that person's acting weird as fuck, I don't like what they're doing, they're making bad decisions, I don't like the kind of person they are, but then like we like sit together, I sit across from them, look in their eyes, read their tarot cards, and like get a much better understanding of their life and how they've come to be the way they are. It's so much easier, first of all, to forgive them and to give them some form of grace, to empathize, like, and just to like understand where they come from and see the good in them, and like the healing that they're either actively doing or wanting to do, or that has to happen in order for them to have a better experience as well.
Piggybacking on what you said, when you're doing the tarot card sessions, have you done this with like say a fan, someone you don't know?
I've done it with people I don't know, but I've never done it with a fan.
I don't know. I have such a random mind that idea popped in my head that like, if you're, I don't know, doing a show or something, especially if it was locally, and that was something you either did before or after the show, probably before the show, I would think. Someone would be, wanting to sit down with you one-on-one and go through that process.
That's a great idea. That's honestly really sick.
Yeah, you can have that for free.
Yeah, like a little like, I guess like, some artists do like meet and greet sort of things. Like if there's just that added like depth to it, that would be really cool. I like that idea.
Yeah, and since you, like you said, you like to travel and you want to do shows, you could easily take that idea and it could be limited to just one time, one person per city or whatever. It doesn't have to be like 20 people, but
true. No, I'd be exhausted if that happened.
You'd be emotionally exhausted. I think the idea kind of came from one of the artists she was the first person I ever did a phone interview with back in 2011. Nice. And she's very, very much educated and into the climate change arena. She's got her master's in that area. And so now what she wants to do is she's coming back to music, and she's supposed to be going to like at least 2 shows per city. So she'll stay there, and she's partnering with other organizations that she feels strongly have the same vision that she has. And but she wants to get the fans involved with that too, with that discussion. So it's not even like about her music. It's about something she's passionate about.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, when you're talking about tarot cards and the sessions, I'm like, that would be really interesting, even for other fans to kind of either be around or find out. So how did that session go? What came from this? What did you learn about this person, and vice versa?
Yeah, honestly, that's such like I like that idea a lot. I think it also just like there's a very like common theme between why I like making music and performing it and why I like doing tarot readings in the first place. And it all comes back to connection and resonance. Like I like my favorite thing that people say when they hear my songs is like it felt like I could have written that. Like it resonated so hard. Like it hit home for me. Like this song is exactly what I'm going through right now, and it just describes my feelings perfectly. Like I like to take myself out of the equation as like when my songs come out. Like it's definitely like imagine that like this is yours. It's your mind. It's your diary. It's your situation. Like my story is my story, but like this also has so much to do with you. And tarot is all about like saying the right words. And like the cool thing about it is that like it's all based on intuition. You see an image and like the words pop into your head and you describe a situation that you're just like kind of like seeing or hearing, you know, in your mind. And somehow, and you can't really control it. Somehow those are the words that the person across from you needs to hear. And you don't really understand how or why, but it's just what happens. And like both of those things deepen my connection to the people and like the world around me. And I don't plan on stopping either anytime soon because of that.
Well, I can tell you, if you make your way back up to Seattle, get a hold of me, and I'll be a guinea pig for this idea if you want one.
I got you. Okay, that sounds great because I'm definitely planning a trip to Seattle this year.
Okay, yeah. I don't plan on leaving, so
Good.
I should be here, and we'll connect. See if we can.
I'll bring my cards.
Yeah, make this idea happen and see what comes
Wonderful.
from it. I think it'd be fascinating.
Yeah, I think so too.
Awesome. Well, Ashlynn, well, congratulations on your EP dropping in a matter of like about an hour or so.
Yep.
On the East Coast.
Yeah.
It's so nice catching up with you and everything that you've been doing and working so hard at everything and just the ideas that came forth. And I love the fact that your energy has grown from what it was. And in reality, that's probably what should happen for most people, you know, if we're wishing them well. But yours definitely has. Again, I wish you every success with the new EP. And if we get a chance to meet in person to go through the tarot session that we've kind of percolated through right now, then great. Yeah. And if there's other things that you want to come on and talk about or promote, I'm always here to do it. And it's again great catching up with you. Everybody that's joined us, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on your EP release.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you too. And yeah, I'm excited.
All right, Ashlynn, have a great night down there.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you.